Donald Trump has demolished the entire anti-MAGA coalition in two primaries. Despite what the commentary are saying or the mainstream media are saying, it seems that what voters care about is making America great again. That's what we're going to talk about in this clip.
And so the primaries now will tell you who's actually going to be running. Let's look at what happened the other night in the Republican primary. So you think that the podcast bros, the Fox News podcast bros, again, the all right, the Tucker Carlsons, Nick Fuentes, and all these people who came out and they were all like, they're all, pissing and moaning about Trump's not doing X, Y, and Z. We're gonna back all these challenges to the guys that Trump has backed. And what happened in Ohio? Of all people, H-1B Obama himself, Vivek Ramaswamy, one of the guy who crashed out over H-1B visas, still took 85%, won every county in Ohio against Casey Putsch. Whether Putsch is a good guy or a bad guy, doesn't matter. Trump backed him, and he won 85-15. Now, and then he's going to be in a fight against a literal CIA asset on the other side. Like, Vivek's going to win the governorship in Ohio. I don't think it's going to even be that hard. He should win 55-45 with no problem, because Ohio's not purple any more than Florida was ever purple. Okay? If anything, the people in Ohio are not going to vote for the status quo. I've been to Southern Ohio. My wife's family is from Southern Ohio. It's literally where they came up with the idea of The Walking Dead. Okay? It's literally zombie land. It's nothing but fentanyl and people dying from having worked at the atomic plant and all of it. It's awful. Between that and the corn farmers who can only make money, who can only balance the books by growing pot in the middle of the fields, and now the Amish are taking and gentrifying the place by taking the whole area over. If it wasn't for that, so you think any of those people are voting Democrat because Donald Trump started a war in Iran? Really? Okay. And pigs are about to fly out of my ass. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, this is reality. So Vivek's going to win in Ohio, and he'll have coattails. Okay, because Trump is doing enough, more than enough, to change the dynamic and most people can see it.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about redistricting. I'm going to throw it right back over to Susan because this is an important one.
Before we do that, that's really quite something. And I notice my perception that is that Trump was going to do badly in the midterm. So these results come out as a surprise to me. And why I'm saying this, Tom, is like there's all the nonsense in the mainstream media which gets filtered out and infects independent media commentary at that space. And then you talk about people like Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson and I don't know so much Nick Fuentes, right? But, I've been listening to them for years. My friends and family have been listening to them for years. And then they think, yeah, they're really great. They're really great because they oppose Israel and they oppose war. And then, now they're opposing Trump and then they get carried along with it.
Right. Well, what's interesting, Rich, I'll turn it over in just a second, Susan, to finish the thought. But the point about Vivek and the point about Casey Putsch and the point about all of these guys that came up and they thought that having a lot of cachet in the internet world translates into cachet in the real world. They don't. They keep losing over and over and over again. They keep trying to run these internet-driven campaigns and they get nowhere because most people aren't on Twitter. It's not real life. It's not a real strategy. Okay. And, that's just the reality of the situation. And
I'll give you an actual anecdote directly. My husband's running for state rep. We lived south of Detroit in a heavily blue collar district, classic working class district, has always been Democratic, but voted for Trump in 2024, at least our town, not the whole district. Voted for Trump in 2024, voted for him in 2016. So they're the kind of key bellwether. He ran last time. So he's done a lot of door knocking. He went out door knocking last week for the first time since the temperature has changed a little bit. And he came back and he said, I was really surprised people were calm. He said they weren't politically tense like they were in 2024. And he was hitting a mix of people. It was hard R's and independents and a few Democrats who didn't agree with him. But, but he said nobody was freaked out about the gas prices. They all knew it was going to come down. One person, before I could even say something, he said, I know it's not Trump's fault. He said he was just, and then he's gone out a couple of times since then, and it's holding. It's the same thing where if you're living, in the social media world, everybody's hair is on fire about everything.
Right.
And here were people. He said, mostly they wanted to talk about how they were trying to get through life. One was going to college and was just talking about that, and they were just talking about their day to day. And I was talking about the changes that Trump is bringing about, in terms of reconfiguring the economy. Because here, all you have to do is remind people what life was 40 years ago before NAFTA, right? Where one income could comfortably raise a family in a middle class standard of living, with stability and all of that. And that all has been taken away. And that's why when you focus on the economy, and that's people get tired of me saying this, but in my political incarnation, I'm out there constantly saying it is the economy, stupid. That's what you have to talk about. Do not let the Democrats hijack this with hot button issues. A lot of people still want to go out and campaign on boys and girls bathrooms and, women's sport. And so we pretty much won that fight at the national level. I mean, not that you don't want to make clear, you think it's psychotic and it, shouldn't be allowed, but that's not what's going to move the needle at this point. What's going to move the needle is when people begin to say, wait a minute, we could get a country back where I could actually live and where I could have some confidence that my kids live. I mean, we've all used this statistic. The average age for the first-time home buyer in the United States right now is 40 years old. You could be a grandmother before you own your first house.
Wow.
So, and people know that's wrong. People know that you've got to be able to get a starter house when you're 26 years old. So if you actually want to start to raise a family, you don't have to do it in a closet. And, but I keep using the word Stockholm syndrome. We got to break people out of their Stockholm syndrome where they think the way we've been living under globalism is normal. And all you can do is be mad about it. Or, as Scott Bessent has said, the Democratic strategy is compensate the loser. So throw some money at somebody so they don't starve, but you're still trapped, in the equivalent of a plantation as a mental slave.
If you enjoyed this video, you can find the whole clip right here. And don't forget to sign up for my free newsletter. Links in the description below.